Hi, Jolly Jules Cruise Companion. Today I am sitting on Carnival Luminosa on cruise number 49. Cruise number 50 is booked for November of 2024. But I was just reflecting back about the amount of cruises that I have been on and the 7 companies that I have actually cruised on. So I have cruised on Celebrity, Carnival, P&O, Princess, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian Cruise Line and Disney. So I have cruised on only one celebrity, and that was Celebrity Constellation, and that was between Abu Dhabi and Chuia through the Suez Canal, which was the first time that I ever visited Jordan when I visited Petra, and that particular cruise changed my life. So I'm wondering, with everybody else's cruise experiences, was there one particular cruise that literally changed your life? These are just some of the cruises that I have been on and the experiences that I have had. So cruising out of Australia, predominantly my cruise lines have been P&O and Princess because they have serviced Australian waters for as long as I can remember, because my very first cruise was Fairstar, the funship, and I think in about 1983, 1984, something like that. It was a 9-night cruise from Sydney to the Pacific Islands. I slept 9 hours in 9 days. And that was my first cruising experience. My second cruising experience was in 2008, and that was on Disney Wonder. And that started my cruise experience, where I've had 7 cruise experiences now with Disney Cruise Line. But getting back to P&O and Princess, which are the cruise lines that predominantly service Australian waters initially. So I've been on Pacific Dawn 5 times, Pacific Eden once, Pacific Jewel once, Pacific Aria once, and Pacific Encounter at the moment twice. And I have that 3rd cruise for Encounter booked for November of 2024, which is going to be the Melbourne Cup cruise from Brisbane to Melbourne, staying the 2 nights before coming back to Brisbane. My cruises that I do with P&O have also contributed to the cruises that I've done on Princess Cruise Line because they are a sister company. So I have been on Sea Princess 6 times, Sun Princess once, Royal Princess once through the Mediterranean, and Coral Princess twice. I first met Coral Princess when I was actually on Norwegian Star going through the Panama Canal. And she was, Coral Princess was in the other lock. And so as you rise up, you spend an hour or so parallel to another ship. So that was the first time I'd met Coral Princess, but I'd never cruised on her until after the reopening of cruising in Australia, when Coral Princess came to Australia and cruising reopened. And from the Brisbane International Cruise Terminal, that was the first cruise, I think it was on the 6th of June, was the first time that I had been on Coral Princess, and now I've been on her a couple of times. What a wonderful experience she is. Royal Caribbean International have also been sailing out of Australia for quite a long time. They originally started quite seasonal, but now they are down here for most of the year. So my first few experiences with Royal Caribbean were on Rhapsody and Radiance. But I've had some absolutely amazing experiences also on Legend and Explorer. And it was Explorer of the Seas that I did the Trans-Pacific 23 days from Seattle to Sydney. And that was an amazing experience. And that was when I actually wrote my book, Handy Cruise Companion. It was 23 days of cruising, so I wrote 12 chapters of a book over that sailing, which was very memorable. Fiji, Murray Island, there was just some beautiful experiences there on explorer of the sea. Currently sailing on Carnival Cruise Lines. Here I am on Luminosa. When Lumi came down to Brisbane, she literally became my go-to ship. So I've been on Lumi 5 times now. I've been on Splendor twice because she's out of Sydney, so I have to make that little bit of a trip down to Sydney to get onto Splendor. But when cruising first opened, I took an opportunity to go down to cruise off Splendor as well, because that was, I didn't want to miss any opportunity once cruising restarted. But my first Carnival ship was Carnival Sensation, was a 4-night cruise out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale. It was a 4-night booze cruise down to the Bahamas. And that was a unique experience where we had our liquor confiscated, not realising that you had to carry your liquor on, where on airplanes you have it in your checked luggage. With cruise lines you have it on your carry-on luggage. So that was my first encounter with the security. So that was really quite sweet as well. And so I've also been on Carnival Spirit, and her Joe Farkas interior design was very eclectic, with the jungle themes and some of those door handles that were like mermaid dream sequences. So Spirit holds a very fond place in my heart, just because it's such an eclectic looking ship. So I've only been on 4 carnivals, and that was Sensation, Spirit, Splendor, and currently on Lumi. When people ask me what is my favourite cruise line, I always have to say Disney Cruise Line. The reason that I really enjoy Disney Cruise Line is because of the quality of the ships, the quality of the food, the quality of the shows, the quality of the crew. The crew on nearly every cruise line is pretty amazing, but there's just something over and above that Disney Cruise Line just seems to have nailed. And so I really enjoy, even though you don't have to have children to go on a Disney Cruise Line. The first couple of times I did travel with a child, and that was a fabulous experience, watching their delight as they saw some of their favourite characters come to life. So I've been on Disney Wonder 3 times now, Magic and Dream once each, and Fantasy twice. So I'm really excited that potentially in the future to travel on Wish and Treasure when they come online, but this is currently still 2024 and they have not come online. But if I ever have an opportunity to tell somebody about cruising, I always encourage them, if their price point can take a really high-end cruise company, I would always suggest Disney Cruise Line. Then it comes to my last cruise company that I particularly love, and it's got a very special fond place in my heart, and that's Norwegian Cruise Line. So I did Norwegian Jewel, I did Alaska, and that was 7 nights, and I met some absolutely amazing Americans that I'm still friends with to this day. What that would be about 7 or 9 years later. My next experience on Norwegian Cruise Line was with Norwegian Star, and that was from Fort Lauderdale or Miami through the Panama Canal to Los Angeles. And it's another one of those cruises that literally kind of changed your life. It didn't quite change it as much as Celebrity Constellation with going to Jordan, and then my entire life changed completely. But I just fell in love with Norwegian Star, and so I have been Panama Canal, several transatlantics, and a Baja out of Long Beach, a 4-night. So I have made special effort, if any time that there was a cruise that came available on Norwegian Star that I was able to go on, I would. So when I did a transatlantic, I went from Miami or Fort Lauderdale to Copenhagen, and enjoyed it so much that I stayed on at Copenhagen and did the Norwegian Fjords as an extra cruise, so tacked on an extra 7 days because I was already overseas. And that was an absolutely wonderful experience that just with situation I would never have had the opportunity to do if I had made the additional effort to get there. It would have been too expensive flying from Australia. So I've been on Pride of America, the only ship that goes around the Hawaiian Islands, specifically as a 7-day cruise, and the reason that it is never discounted is because it has to have American crew, because it's going from an American port to an American port, and that is why when you are on an American cruise line, it has to do a special stop somewhere in an overseas country before it comes back. And that is why Alaskan cruises coming out of Seattle or Los Angeles stop at Victoria, because it has to stop at an overseas port so that it can have that cheaper fare. Then the last cruise that I have been on with NCL was on Norwegian Epic, and I've been on her twice, and she is a massive, magnificent ship, and that was through the Mediterranean. I think Mediterranean on both of the occasions, whether it was, Western Med and Eastern Med. So you have some different ports and different stops, even though you're on the same boat. It basically, goes two different directions. So that is a bit of a reflection on the cruises that I've been on. Cruise number 50 will come up later in this year. I don't necessarily see many more cruises in my future. I know Virgin Cruise Line is down here in Australia now. It doesn't particularly hold me any interest. I know people that are really excited about Cunard. Once again, it's still something that I'm not specifically guided towards. You find your own price point, you find your own cruise itinerary. I know that there's a lot of people doing the explorer type ones that go down to the Antarctic. There are cruises that are going to suit every price point, every budget, every itinerary, every choice of a place that you want to visit. Africa, the Middle East, Asia. There is a cruise out there for you. Just go and explore all of the different options and find a cruise that's going to suit you. This is Jolly Jules Cruise Companion saying, stay safe everybody and happy travels.